everybody, how are we doing? We managed to get a live stream going today. It's a funny story, or perhaps not that funny. I know we were planning to do one every day. First day was great, but I think what it is, because we're in a park area, all the remote, ordinarily we have people dialing in via mobile phones or whatever, and I think as more and more people became in the same space, and they all crammed the same cell, so it was very hard to get some kind of a signal. So essentially, that's what happened. So Thursday we managed to do one. Friday was a little bit dodgy. Actually, Wednesday we did one. Thursday was hard. Friday, actually, there was a difference because Friday what happened, which was yesterday, because I'm running this whole thing in the cloud and this whole sort of video switch and whatnot. Hello, everybody. Thank you to all our chatters. Nice to see you. We can manage to keep that going anyway. We couldn't fire up. Amazon didn't have any capacity. They just sort of said the data center's full up. You can't have any more computers. So basically we had no show. So I hope you enjoyed the kind of rather impromptu tour we did just around the place, because essentially the idea was really with this to give you all an idea of what it's like to be here. And that's, for me, at the moment, it's quite difficult because after a few days here, I mean, if those of you who've ever been to Superbooth or any of these sort of big shows where there's a lot of stimulation, you'll realise that it's actually just really tough and it's hard to remember anything. So I've told this story many times before, and I probably will tell it again because I'll forget I've told it, which is an illustration of how it goes. People say, "Oh, hi, what have you seen that you like?" And I just go, "I don't know." I mean, plus the fact that I haven't actually filmed a lot of the stuff. Most of the stuff, we've got a team here. We've got Andy Mack, who's my partner, business partner, always film stuff at these events. We've also got Ed, who does great work. He's done a lot of videos. Also, Chris Midiera has done that bunch. There's still plenty of his to come. In fact, we're a little bit behind just because of the sheer volume. There's going to be a whole bunch of this. So it should all be coming on as it does. So I want to say thanks, and also big thanks to Rob, who's out there in the States editing this stuff via the cloud. It almost has worked fine from my end. He's just been cracking on with what he's been given. And also to Chris Boo, who from Battery Operated Orchestra, who's been doing the stories. Thank you very much as well. Much appreciated. So let me just switch this because I think we might actually have a caller. It was so difficult that we ended up having to go off-site. Who was that? Is that Dom? Yeah.
Yes, hello there. How are you doing? I also have a Mr. Matt Hodgson with me right here behind me.
Dom and Matt at the airport. How about that?
Right.
How are you? How was your trip out there?
It was good. We literally just made it through security, so that we kind of thought if we can just make it through security, we'll be all right to dial in. So just finding a nice quiet spot to look at the planes.
Well, I'll let you get settled, and then I'll carry on my monologue, and then I'll come back to you in a sec. But nice, thank you. Oh,
all right,
look at that. Won't be a sec. So,
see you in a minute.
Yeah. Excuse me. So yeah, I just wanted to give my thanks. Also, big thanks to our sponsors. That's obviously Roland, who you'll have seen their new IRA Compact on the front of all of our videos, and also Perfect Circuit, a great retailer based in the States for all of your synth needs, and of course Soma and Bitwig, who you will see at the end. In fact, we've got a great video. I don't know if it's up yet, but I shot a great video with Bitwig of them showing the new delay functions. It's got a really nice freeze with all this kind of granular control that almost turns the delay into a frozen reverb, and all these sort of really nifty kind of ducking and enveloping. There's just loads of it. It's really, really good. But I won't bang on about that, but I just wanted to get all those thanks in. And also, while I'm there, I should actually say big thanks to Soma for sponsoring these live streams, even though they have been somewhat chaotic. I'll just play our little black for Pulsar 23, which is a fabulous drum machine. Yes, thank you very much, chaps. Very, very kind. Right, I think we have. We're back to. I can't remember what the name of the airport is. What's the name of the airport? Brandenburg.
Brandenburg.
Live at Brandenburg.
Live from Brandenburg. Doing a bit of plane spotting. It's all going on behind us. What a show!
Nice.
Goodness me! I'm kind of showed out to a degree, but I'm happy to be heading home. But it was amazing. It was just so nice. Everyone's so positive and enthusiastic. I can't rate it enough. What did you?
Yeah, same. It was brilliant. It was really great. Pulled out all the stops this year, as you saw, with the kind of festival vibe. But I am pleased to sort of be going home now. I am looking forward to my own bed, I must admit, tonight. But it's one of the main reasons I'm exhausted is just how many people you get chatting to.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
you know, the sort of community and people coming up to you and I've seen you on Sonic Talk or whatever, or just saying how brilliant it is that we've got a place now where we can all go play with our toys and geek out over synths and drum machines and stuff every year.
Just been
I
discussing
feel no
American
shame.
fish and chips. The first meal on landing, and the fish and chips, pizza first, then fish and chips came a close second. But no, it's been fab, and there've been, I mean, some really nice products. Nothing hugely earth-shattering or unexpected, apart from maybe that Soma Terra. But and actually, I quite like the what's it called?
I've not heard of that one.
Yeah, it's this one. Polyend Play. I thought was really cool.
Ah, yeah,
And it's
that
sort
sounded
of
pretty
in
good, yeah.
Early stages of software. I think the MIDI side's a bit early, but I really like that. I did like the twangy guitar string man with his bicycle mobile modular synthesizer. But I don't know what.
Funnily enough, I actually filmed a piece with him on his haptics thing. So there's an actual piece, not with the twangy guitar string. I think you covered that very well, Dom, yesterday. Oh, it was Thursday. I mean, I'd just like to say, I'm pleased to see that you are both suffering from show brain, and it's not just me.
Yeah, you've done really well, and the whole crew actually. And people don't see the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes with you lot, with Ed and everyone on camera. So. Hats off to you all. You've all done an amazing piece of work, and just looking at the comments and what people are saying when I'm walking around about how important it is what you guys are doing. So it's great to be part of this. What's been your highlight, Nick? Do you think?
Oh, I think I mean, I'm not a big electric piano fan, but I really liked the Rhodes. I've had this kind of weird epiphany about, because the industry has been going so far in the direction of everything must be cheap, race to the bottom, cheap, affordable, why, and there's a sense of luxury in any product is almost a sort of dirty word and not allowed because it doesn't include everybody. And one of the things that I really liked, I saw the Rhodes Mark 8 this morning, did a great demo with Jamie, which I think is just up live. And it was just, and he sort of said, yeah, $7,000. And it's like, and I thought, well, yeah, but I mean, they're using the same piano action as you get on a Steinway. And a Steinway will cost you at least $100,000. So, and you're getting that level of craftsmanship there. And again, I know the teenage engineering stuff has come into a lot of flack, and we gave it a lot of flack, but seeing it and understanding the stuff that go, I have banged on about this, and I don't want to come across as an apologist for perhaps, that sort of stuff. But those two things have stood out a little bit, and the kind of higher quality things that are harder to attain and just, not just cheap as chips, which I think also is great.
I think that's the word. Craftsmanship is definitely the word there, because you are looking with the teenage engineering stuff, everything is crafted. You may not want a mixer, and if you don't want a mixer, you won't want an expensive mixer, so that's fine. But yeah, I saw the Rhodes as well, and there is something beautiful about the sound and the mechanicals. I mean, they've got see-through tops, so you can see all the work that's going on underneath and stuff. And it's like, yeah, really, really nice. A luxury, but it's it's a piece of art / furniture / musical instrument. It's more than just something that may go out of favour in 3 or 4 years. This thing you put in your lounge if you want to, and run some mics through to a patch bay upstairs if you really want to make it work.
One thing I would say, he did also mention it's £31 lighter than a normal Rhodes, so that's actually a positive you can take from the whole thing.
Yeah.
Bonus.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. That's yeah, cool.
I had a little play. I managed to play it on some of the kind of more sort of older synths and stuff that I've not played on before. So I played on the Vermona Performer. Are you familiar with that? It's that kind of 4-voice. It kind of does what the Monopoly does.
Yeah, I think it's been around for a while. Actually,
been around
isn't it?
for a while.
But they're good. They're definitely good things.
Never played on one. You've got essentially 4 voices. You've got that kind of voice allocation that goes around. Or you can play it as monophonic and stack them. And you've got filter cut-offs on each channel and the envelope. And I know it's been around a while, but I've never got to play with one. But so well built, great sounding oscillators. And I also played with their drum machine. Endorphins, I got to play with their new one, their new module today, just before I was leaving, Ghost. And they've collaborated with Andrew Huang.
Yeah. Oh wow, that sounds cool.
Yeah, so
It is nice to go and play instruments that you've seen on YouTube or heard people talk about or whatever. Like back in the old days, remember when we all used to go to shops and try out synths before we bought them, instead of spending £1,200 on something to arrive in the post. It is nice to actually go and touch the overhung, go and play even the Prophet Rev 2 or whatever, stuff that I've known about for a long time but I've never actually played. And there's so many enthusiastic people around, that are also kind of putting through its paces. That's excellent stuff. How are you feeling? Are you showed out fully yet, or have you got some time to go?
I'm okay actually. Well, I might have mentioned on a previous show I've had a bad back for a few weeks, and it's finally feels like it's still not great, but it's not hurting so much, so that's good. I also want to shout out. I did a video today with a guy called Tim, who I think is a composer who works with Nonlinear Labs and the C15. And the C15 has had quite a few sort of iterations. They added MIDI and they've added this kind of recorder. So it's recording always. You switch it on and it just records everything for that day. So you can always go back and see where you were noodling. And he played a few of his sounds. And honestly, that sounded amazing. Again, another really ludicrously expensive item, but very much player because it's got, I don't know, thousands of levels of velocity. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's in the same place as that's close to the Schmidt, isn't it? That's the first time I've ever played a Schmidt. And there's other similar caliber. There's a room of stuff like that, and they do sound amazing. And it doesn't really matter that I can't afford them. It's just nice to see that pedigree of stuff. There's definitely almost two tiers going on. There's very little in the mid tier at the moment that I've seen they're coming out. They're either sub a certain price range or right up to the stratosphere, but worth it, at that level. It's quite interesting. The mid-tier stuff seems to be. Perhaps it's because of the chip shortage that some manufacturers are making mini versions or cut-down versions of what they already had. I don't know, but there's a middle tier that's missing. But what's up the top there is just outstanding. If only I could afford any, it's great. But I mean, once a year you can come out here and play them.
I noticed this year there was quite a number of mixers on display as well, and some of these were CV controllable, some of them were standalone, some of them were kind of modular. And I think on the show for a long time now I've been talking about this kind of modular approach to mixing desks. So you can buy however many faders you want, and if you want the EQ section you can, or you don't have to have that. Decide what sort of preamp you want, and then CV control. Trying to remember the names now, the companies, but there was at least 3 that I saw who were kind of bringing something new to the market in that way. So that was interesting, because I think for a long time mixers have just been seen as these kind of set it and that's it, get your levels. But I think we're looking at kind of bringing performance into mixers now as a thing. I think
it's funny, isn't it? Well, Dom, because you've been really into sort of dub and that sort of thing, and that's really performative on Twitter, isn't it? So, and seeing that come in, I mean, I know you're not necessarily massive into modular, but maybe modular will bring about a more performative aspect to mixing. So we'll see things like, XY pads and joysticks and things that allow you to kind of grab and do stuff. I think that might be an interest, because often there are trends, aren't they, when you come to these shows? I mean, I can't confess that I've seen much of that because I've just not been able to film as much as the rest of the gang. But I think that, there's often a trend. I mean, there was a trend a while back where it was this kind of hybrid analog and digital stuff, lots of that going on. And I guess that's still a thing as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the thing that was always missing mixing desk-wise is people flying the faders and flying the aux sends live in a mix like you used to do, and I was saying how bad it was that all of the controllers for Logic and for Ableton only had like 2 aux sends, and you probably used one for the pan control and one to send a bit of reverb, and I want to be feeding stuff back. And that's beginning to happen, and like you say, with CV and external control, then suddenly it makes a lot more sense, So I've gone completely backwards. I've wired up my spring reverb to a couple of, to a real output from the computer, and I've got an old other kind of analog delay and echo in there as well. So stuff like that is great, and it was a real trouble to get it all controllable and working, to kind of patch together this stuff. So if there can be a small form CV based mixer that allows you to configure it like that, it's perfect. Because I know not everyone wants a mixer like I do, but a kind of patch. There was that patchable together one. Wasn't there? That was there.
Did you see the MIDI ones where you get the kind of modular MIDI faders, MIDI buttons, put them together.
Put them together, and you build your own thing, which would also have sold it. I've ended up with a fader Fox and a fader Fox kind of slider thing, but I knew kind of within 3 weeks of buying it, there'd probably still be something else that did it better.
Well, it's interesting. I think there's room for almost like the old style Mackie control, but what you have is like you've got two fader pot. You could actually just assign what auxes they would go to for each channel. So you just go on this channel, which is the kick. I'm only ever going to send it to the stereo. So that could be aux 2. Next channel could be aux 5 and aux 1, and you just basically configure those. I mean, maybe there's a way to intelligently remap it. Even with the existing hardware, I mean, there must be.
Based on the channel.
Just kind of have like a little bit of.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I wish I thought of that a few months ago. Oh, cool. No, that's a really good idea.
On the plane on the way out. But that would work.
We might have to run to check our flat. Not sure what the time's like.
That's all right. That's fine. Okay. Well, I just want to say,
obviously,
guys.
the worst thing about. I was just going to say the worst thing about flying is that it makes your arm ache.
So does holding this camera,
absolutely.
to be honest.
Yeah, well, you want to try holding one of ours for a few days. That'll do it. That's what I've got for my last couple of videos I shot with a phone. I just thought I'd see how that went, and it seems to be perfectly acceptable.
It's great.
Because the new. I just want to apologise for people who were saying that some of the flights, some of our things were a bit blurry because we had these new cameras that were really good, but that they're harder to focus, and so it just sorry. Yes, but we met up with some YouTubers. Corey Banks, we went out for dinner with him last night, and also Yoad was here. Just really great to see you people in person as well, because we don't get to do that very often.
It was really nice.
Times.
I mean, we met once before, you and me, down in Bristol at the Sonicstate show, but we haven't really met properly, so that's it. I'd never met Yoad before, so it's nice to see him in real life. And a bunch of people that you recognise. And thank you for everyone who's come up and said hello to me and to Matt, because it's just like, I don't really know that many faces, and it's so lovely for someone to come up and say, oh yeah, you said come up and say hello, I'm so-and-so, and it's brilliant to meet these people, because it's been a very weird virtual world for the last 3 years, so it's just nice to have a bit of human connection again.
Absolutely. So have you literally got to dash to your gate now? Are you
I don't know, what are we doing? It'd probably be.
I can't remember. I can't remember if there's another security line between here and getting in. That's the only thing you should definitely check. But
we're okay for another 10-15 minutes, I'm sure.
Oh, right. Well, I don't think we're going to take that much time. I mean, these things are generally, we try and make them. I mean, this is how bad the network got, is that we had to send you to the airport to get a decent signal. And
to actually get a signal. Yeah, I did literally end up standing on a tree stump, the first one, with my phone up here just to get a signal. And then every time I brought my phone down, it would drop out. But yeah, it is what it is. I think it seemed to be affected by the weather as well. Whenever the clouds came up, you'd lose your mobile signal. Live and learn.
In terms of performances, I'm just trying to think, because obviously there's lots of live music going on throughout the whole time. I saw some of it last night. Julia Bonda.
How was that?
Essentially, is Endorphins. Yeah, amazing gig. I managed to catch up with her today briefly and just chatting about how she's doing all the transitions and all that kind of thing. And playing with their system today, when I was checking out Ghost, I realised how well thought out it is for performance, particularly if you're doing things like techno. I haven't played with their drum module before. I don't know if you have, and you've got the kick, snare, hi-hat. No. It's got a big filter on it, loads of resonance, take out the low end. It's really superb. That was a great performance last night, and I managed to catch the performance today. They were playing around with the new Oberheim, showing that off in the auditorium. It's literally the last thing I saw before we had to get out there, and I mean, that thing's sounding really great. It
is good. Lovely to see Dave Smith there as well.
Yeah.
Actually coming out to the trade show and sitting there and putting up with everyone going, can I have a picture, Dave?
I was saying the funny thing is like when you go, we went up there, Matt, yesterday, didn't we? And on our sort of walkabout, and you go in, and Dave's been in that room, and you go in, it's just a massive wall of Tom, and Dave's there, and it's like, I've done some stuff too. It's not just Tom.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
I wonder if they joke about that.
And they do sound great. It's really nice just to have a play on all that stuff. It's so impressive, and it's just lovely to see.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting.
as I understand
Sorry,
it, it was redesigned because of the chip shortage. So it's kind of been an extra year in the making or something for it to actually come out at this stage. So crikey knows what was going on with that. But it's just lovely to see the new Oberheim in the flesh.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think they've obviously gone for a really purist approach, which I think, perhaps further down the food chain, people like me and you might think, well, I would rather have more effects or this or that. And I'm sure that will come along now they've proven proof of concept, because to me, it seems to be the way to go. You start massively high and then you bring that technology down to more affordable. It's better than going the other way, because it's harder to charge more
Very much so.
for the same thing.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think if you've got the studio and you've got your Bricasti reverbs and your amazing effects and you want an Oberheim sound, then that's the way to go. But if you're sitting on, you don't have lots of effects available already and you've got some basic kit, then you want a box with that core sound in, maybe less oscillators, maybe, compromised in some other ways, but it has some built-in effects. It has more of an instant kind of get-me factor on the whole thing. But you're right, it's like the 2600, the Korg remake, it's a brilliant remake at a very high level that's now being cascaded down into smaller versions, tighter versions. So yeah, you do want to go from the top down. I think you want that original proper kind of fabulous instrument to start with, and then you can start throwing out things just a little bit below, throwing out in the broadest sense, because they're not actually just chucked together. These things are amazing instruments.
Okay, so I'm going to do what people do to me all the time, and I always say I have no idea, just purely for, and this is a product of the show for you that you can remember. I know, just something maybe you've seen, but it doesn't have to be, this has to be the best one. It's like the thing that you saw that you really would like to have the most, or maybe that there's something, I know that I'm putting you on the spot and you've probably got just as bad show brain as I have, but that's it, it's my show.
For me, I think it's got to be because it might be the same as yours, I'll jump in first. And now it's got to be the Terra. So it's the Soma Terra, which is basically a tree, a slice of a tree as the basis for it, and some buttons which are metal touch buttons that respond to how much you touch them. It's very tactile. There's a great, I think Gaz did the Sonicstate take on it. And I managed to get a demo of that today with Vlad, who showed me, for 10 minutes how this thing works. And it's amazing. It's really, really is amazing. And it's not just an instrument where you can do, this would be great to do film scores with loads of ambient crashes and bangs and weird and wonderful stuff. You can play solos and chords and music and equally in equal measures. So yeah, Terra for me, although I don't think it's out, I think it's prototype only, but it's an amazing bit of kit.
Mine is probably the first module. You are?
I was going to say, now it's your turn. You've had time to think about it. I've given you 10 seconds.
All right, back to me then.
Yeah, that's it. First module I played with when we arrived. Do you remember? It was the kick
with the reverb on it.
Kick with the reverb by Nobula. The Kickane?
Yes.
Kickane?
That's right.
And it's got, it just sounded great. You've got a kick drum synthesis in it, essentially. You've got reverb, but it will do sidechain as well, so you can pump things through it and it will duck it. It just sounded brutal. It sounded really good. The kicks were really snappy, very small, totally playable, great user interface. It just sounded great. That was the first thing we looked at, wasn't it?
Yeah, we walked into the modular tent. And actually the thing about that was, when you say kicks and reverbs, they're not usually good friends, but the reverb re-triggers when you hit the kick. So it'll go rather than. So really good thing. You've got that almost that techno-ish kind of under backbeat thing going on with it as well. Yeah, really nice.
Actually, I was playing around with it in combination with their other module, the polyphonic strings that they do, which just sounded fantastic. I forgot what it's called now. I was just looking on my phone, but it was very cinematic. Is it actually? I think it's called cinematic strings or something like that. Something like that. It was very cinematic. It sounded really, really great. So those two modules really stood out for me. As did I can go on, but yeah, those two definitely.
Excellent. Well, I will say, and only because I had an idea for a synth, soft synth, and not because they're a sponsor. The hardware stuff, obviously the OBX and all of that is fantastic, but I saw, it was literally just a Bitwig update, and the convolution engine that that they brought in, and it's really slick. And I just thought, actually, what about a synth which just has convolution sources for oscillators? So you build you built, you've got effectively a live input that is pitched before it gets convoluted. I don't know if it was even happened in DSP. So you could play, I mean, a mono you'd probably get away. They don't know about poly. It might be a bit sloshy with too much. But because of the way that they showed it, it wasn't about reverb and the way that it worked. So they put rhythmic stuff in and you get this amazing harmonic shaping of whatever it is that you were applying. And I just thought it just gave me sparked off an idea. So
yeah, that sounds ace.
And now you've just given that idea away to millions of people.
So the best product for you was something that doesn't actually exist yet then?
Well, I suppose. I'm not saying it was the best product. It was the one that sparked the most interest in terms
that sparked your imagination.
Yeah, I suppose. I'm being flexible with my own definition of what I have to say. But like I said, it's my show. So I do what I like.
It's your ball. So yeah, it's your ball. You can kick it wherever you like. It's fine. Was there anything materialistic that you loved?
Other than the roads?
I didn't film a lot of stuff that was kind of. I just didn't film all that much stuff. I mean, I didn't really get my hands on it, but I would like to play around with the C15 a bit more. I think that's kind of an interesting machine. But there was a ton of stuff. I think Create Audio had that really nice new what's it called? East Beast? I think it was. Yes,
you're right. Yeah, I've forgotten that. Wow.
So that's a new synth. I mean, and there's a ton of stuff really. I mean, there's just I won't be able to digest. I think next week's show, next Wednesday, is when we're going to do that. Something. What?
We swapped hands because my arm was about to fall off.
So Matt, you're taking over. Well, look, guys. I mean, I don't want to drain too much of your remaining brain cells, but. You'll need them for getting home. But thank you so much for coming on and being game to actually make this work. But unless there's anything else you'd like to add, we can sort of wrap things up, I think.
No, I think well,
I guess my closing thoughts are what I take away from this is the modular synth community it's just exploded over, I don't know, the last 20 years maybe. And for new modular developers, they can't just keep putting out, here's a VCA. I mean, they can, but we're really seeing them now go, having to think much harder about what new modules they're bringing to market, why, what function, what purpose, how is it different to what's out there, thinking about size, thinking about performance, and of course overall functionality. There are some new module makers that I was speaking to over the weekend, very young people designing stuff and just blowing me away with their vision for what their modular system looks like and their approach to things. So I really took that away, that things are moving forward still in that community, and in terms of the products that are coming out, it's not like another 10 VCAs have just been released over this weekend. It's been much more than that. So well done, module makers. You're all clever people.
Absolutely. Actually, that was the one thing I've just. Sorry, Dog, go.
No, you go for it, and then I'll give my little.
There was one thing that I'd forgot that I went to see. It was the Clavis module, the new Clavis module. I don't know if you got to see that. And it's a new filter which basically takes the input signal, which would be like, let's say it's a sine wave, and it can actually modulate the frequency. It's got two filters, and modulate the frequency of one of the filters by analysing the frequency of the incoming signal. But then you can clock divide that down. So if you've got 1K, you can clock divide it right down to sort of LFO and trigger territory through multiple different. If it's a sawtooth that goes in, you get a rhythmic LFO modulation. And as you step through the kind of the clock divisions, you end up with all this kind of really interesting just filter. It was quite unique, actually. I would recommend you check it out. I think you guys are having is there a party of school children come past?
Yeah, no, they're just wandering off, so that's all right. I was just going to say, pretty similar to Matt, really. And it's not just on the modular level. It's like there's a lot of very clever, small starter ups. They've been concentrating over lockdown and building products, and whether it's like a small module or synth with just a Raspberry Pi inside where they've written some cool code in there, or whether it's some of the bigger, more innovative, not so more innovative, but the bigger sort of more well-funded products that are out there, it's really exciting times. And I think everyone is kind of excited to be coming out of lockdown, and hopefully this is the way it will always continue. But there is a very strong, it's back to, I think, what Gaz said once. It's just really good to have people around like that in the industry, prepared to take a little bit of a punt and just get out there with an idea, actually turn it into something tangible rather than just talking about it, and just go out and say, what do you think? And there's been 2 or 3 of those which are like, this is insanely brilliant. It's not just a good idea, a nice one, guys. This is just like amazing, And Superbooth is really the place to be, I guess, for that. So yeah, really, really positive time for us.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, folks. I'll let you go and catch a plane. I do hope I haven't held you up too long, but thanks for everybody watching in the YouTubes and the IRC and all the Discord. But that's it for this last show. See you around. Take care. Bye-bye now.